Welcome, everybody. This is two EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff. I hope you are having a good Friday. I hope that that you are about to get some really cool info that's going to inspire you to go into the weekend with a smile on your face and ideas in your head. And we are excited to share loads of cool things with you because why else would we be getting together? Now, several thank yous we got to toss out there. First, Richard, always good to work with you, my friend. If you have not checked out his site, you need to do that because there is loads of good stuff at freetechforteachers.com and also at practicaledtech.com. We want to say hey to all of the folks in Jerome, my Falls City Academy, Jerome High School, and Summit Elementary folks. Good to see you. All right, the Fowler Unified folks, Susan Stewart's team. Susan and I do Thursday webinars called Activities Across Grade Levels, where what we do is we take a particular idea and we talk about it at multiple grade levels. It's good fun, very valuable. I hope you will check out all of the recordings that we have on our webinars page that we have done there. A shout out to the people at Merit 2020, the group from the Krause Center for Innovation, and all they are doing to raise their game as they work on making cool things happen for kids. So we would like to say hey, and Richard, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Richard. As Rushton said, you probably know me from freetechforteachers.com or Practical EdTech, or increasingly my YouTube channel seems to be getting more and more popular all the time, not because of production value. So there's that. I teach high school computer science currently, previously taught high school social studies, coached middle school basketball, and spent about 7 years kind of living on the road, doing workshops and PD at schools all over the world. But then I had 2 little girls, and so I've scaled that way back and spent a lot more time on the computer doing virtual trainings. That's me.
Very cool. My name is Rushton Hurley. I'm a former high school teacher of Japanese language, spent a year teaching middle school video production, did some college teaching, became a principal, and now I run a little Save the World nonprofit called Next Vista for Learning. It's a library of videos by and for teachers and students everywhere. Videos on different things one might encounter in school or communities around the world or service to others or careers or learning the English language or anything along those lines. If you're interested, stay in touch. Tomorrow, a special webinar from the Next Vista offerings, and we're really excited about this. There are a load of parents out there of elementary kids who are stressed. They're like, oh my God, my kid's not been in school. This is gonna keep the child out of Harvard or whatever it might be. And we're gonna do a little thing tomorrow. I'm working with this wonderful lady, Tatiana Lagarde, who has loads of experience with home learning stuff. And we are going to work to de-stress your parents. So if you are a teacher joining us today, please let your parents know about this. tinyurl.com/rh-webinars20 will get you to our Next Vista webinars page, and that can help you out as well. All right, so what we're doing is we're working to keep the learning going. And so Richard and I are looking to have fun with this, but share a lot of serious ideas along the way as well. And that's just kind of how we do things. So we'll start with a couple of shares, and then we're going to jump into a load of questions because a mountain of them came in this week. So Richard, start us off with Loom there.
So this is an update to a service that I really like. It's called Loom, like it says on the screen there. They released an iOS app about a week and a half ago now that lets you screencast on your iPad or your iPhone, record and jump between apps. It'll keep recording. So it's great for demos of, like, the demo that I did this week was how to submit an assignment in Google Classroom on your iPad. Previously, to make a screencast on an iPad or on an iPhone, you'd have to mirror it to some other device and then record that mirrored image if you wanted to toggle between apps. So it's a great, great update. They do have an Android version on the way, although that's not out yet. And Loom is free for all educators, so check it out.
Very cool. For me, the quick share works this way. As you know from maybe last week's piece where I talked about the Lisa Christine gallery and the intimate expanse pictures that she had put together that are so breathtaking. Great images make great things happen in terms of building discussions with students. And so in this week's share, I decided to kind of stay with the theme, right? And there's an outfit out there called Agora Images, and they do photo contests, different things. And they had a thing called the world's best photos of work. Now, these are some stunning pictures. We're going to take a look kind of down this page a bit as we look at it, but there are a lot of things you can do with students as you're exploring pictures. The one you're seeing at the top here is, I believe, the winning picture from this, but there are 50 in this in this particular page. Like, these are the 50 best that came in. And each one gives you much more of a sense of a particular place. So if you're trying to talk to kids about different parts of the world or the nature of work, certainly for careers, things like this, there are a lot of possibilities in these images. And getting students to really begin to ask questions, you know, like the standard stuff. What do you wonder, right? What do you wonder about these different things you see? What do you wonder about the extra pay that these particular guys get cleaning windows, right? You know, these kinds of things become really, really interesting discussions, you know, if you let the kids kind of cut loose on it. Like anything else, when you're showing images, make sure you take a really good look yourself. I think one down in there was, you know, like somebody applying a tattoo. It didn't seem to be too crazy, but I thought it was still something that you might want to be like, well, is that the right image for my group? That's always part of what we like to do when we're helping kids see possibilities visually. All right, so with that, we're going to jump early into questions because we got a bunch of them. But do know that all of the resources that we share make it onto the Two Guys resources page at nextvista.org. And all of you who have attended, you're going to get or are registered anyway, you're going to get an email. And in that email, you'll have a link back to the webinars page where we'll have the video and all of the links that we mentioned. And if we mention one and I miss getting it in there, just like write me and say, hey, what about this other link? I'll get it in. We'll have the slides as well, because all of these are good links as well. And then also the Two Guys resources page. So loads of things that you get for free for joining in on all of this. So let's jump into the questions. Richard, start us off. Pick any of those cool pieces that came in, and let's jump in.
I'm going to start right at the top, and we'll start with Diana's question, which I thought was a cool idea. We're doing a virtual graduation for 8th grade. I have the addresses of 76 students in an Excel spreadsheet, and I've been adding their addresses one by one in Google Maps. However, I'd like Google or any free software to plot the best course for me from the school to the parking lot to all the students' homes in between. I'm finding I can only add stops manually, point A, point B, etc. Looked online, Google doesn't seem to have this capability. It actually does, but it's kind of hidden. So if you already have that spreadsheet, which is the biggest part of this,
right?
Convert that Excel into a Google Sheet, upload it to Google Sheets. Then that Google Sheet, you can import into Google's My Maps, and it will plot all the points for you. That's pretty cool. And then all you have to do is click the plots in sequence to connect them for your directions for the shortest route between all of them.
So that is much less manual than I think she implied in the question. I would add, as a bit of a warning, that if you know, you're thinking about this is a cool idea. It's very much a cool idea, and you're talking about some pretty private information that's going quite public with regard to people's addresses. So I would actually reach out to those parents and say, is it okay if we do this? You know, and it's an opt-in, because otherwise you're inviting a bit of nastiness from a parent who might be litigiously inclined. So, you know, Richard,
particularly if you have street view imagery involved in that. Right?
Yes. That there are lots of gray areas that better not to become a thing.
All right. So, next question. You ready?
Yep.
All right. So we had a question from Lori. Says, a text is no longer supported on my Mac. Wondering if there is some type of tech tool that is similar, meaning type a few letters as a prompt to push out a longer piece for feedback on an assignment or for parent responses. Hope you have something up your sleeve. You have a couple of things up your sleeve, and I had one.
Well, I'm hoping yours is going to better directly answer that question, Lori's question, than mine will. So there are some tools that you can do this in other applications. So if you are in Gmail, for example, what used to be called canned responses, I think is now called templates. I use it constantly, right? And it's one of those things where you just go whoop whoop, and you've got, you know, a nice long, you know, development in your email. Now that's email, right? It's not not, on whatever your word processing piece is. But, there are other things that you can do. Now, if you are doing these things as parts of assignments and you've got kids creating docs, in Google Classroom, you've got the comment bank when you're in the grading space, right? And so that's another way to get in there as well. Richard, how about you? What other kind of pieces might be out there?
There are two things that I would add to this. Number one, Mac specifically, there is an application you can buy. I think it costs about $35. It's called Keyboard Maestro, which you can use to automate all kinds of processes on your computer. So it's much more than just an autofill tool. You can do it to run all kinds of programs in the background for you. I personally don't use it, but the guy who does almost all the database stuff at my school, he swears by it and processes all kinds of stuff with it. So take that for what it's worth. The other thing that I would mention, if you're using Google Chrome, there is an extension called Auto Text Expander, which will let you do exactly what you're talking about. Write a few letters, and it'll fill in an entire message for you up to 750 words. And that will work on any form, any document, anything you have inside of Chrome. The one little caveat to it, I learned this the hard way. Do not use normal words as your triggers to expand your text. For example, I thought I would be really clever and set dog as one of my expanders. Well, then anytime I tried to write anything about a dog, it filled in all the directions for taking care of my dogs for my house sitter. Ooh. So don't use real words. Use like some abbreviation that only makes sense to you to fill in your auto text.
All right. Well, I have got that in the chat and also added to our links page as well. Let's keep going. What's the next question?
All right. When I'm with my pre-K class in Zoom, is there a way for them to draw on the whiteboard and copy what I do and submit it? For example, if I draw a circle on the whiteboard, then ask them to draw a circle and show it, can this be done? And you and I had two suggestions. Yours was?
Mine was use Zoom in connection with Jamboard. Now, if you go searching for Google Jamboard, Jamboard's a Google thing, right? So you Google Jamboard. What you're going to get is the Jamboard page that Google offers related to what they sell with Jamboard. But don't be thrown by that. If you just go into Google Drive and you go to New and then More, one of the options is Jamboard. And what that is it's a collaborative whiteboard, collaborative in the same sense kind of Google Drive stuff is collaborative, right? And you can do things so like have lots of different kids on this at the same time. You can be on one thing showing how it is, and then they all get on Jamboard, and you'll be able to see it. And that's one way to do it. Richard.
So I would say that Jamboard is a good one, except that kids could write on top of each other, which kindergartners might be a little tricky, or pre-K. The tool that I recommended is Whiteboard Fi. You'll find it at whiteboard.fi. And it lets you have every student have their own whiteboard that they can draw on, and you can see what they're drawing in real time. Think of it almost like Flipgrid, if you would, for whiteboards, where you can see every student's work in real time on one screen. So I would try that. In fact, I made a video about how to do that yesterday.
Add that link to the chat as we go as well.
Yeah, I'll add that in there. Sorry, I got all. I'm not the best multitasker.
Nor do you have to be a good human being. It's okay. Cool.
All right, I'll put that link in. I'll put that link in there. I've got it right here.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Okay, so next question up.
Angela.
From Angela, yeah. There was. We had a lot of ideas for this one, didn't we? So, I have a request by a classroom team doing remote learning for a first grade girl with selective mutism. She will not speak to the teacher to provide responses or participate. By the way, I had a 9th grade student who had the same challenge. This has also occurred during face-to-face instruction. The teacher recently had a classroom scavenger hunt and drawing activity, but the child refused to participate when the camera was on. The teacher is looking for other interactive activities she can have the child do, which will not require her to be on camera. I thought of Edpuzzle. Do you know of any other options?
Okay, Richard, do yours first, and then I'll come at it from another angle.
So I actually wrote back to Angela with a suggestion to try goformative.com, because it sounds like the scavenger hunt, you're looking for things. With goformative.com, you can upload an image and then add basically interactive markers on that image, and each marker has a multiple choice question or a fill in the blank or short answer question. So you could try that. And if you're really gung-ho for the student to speak but not be on video, you might try something like anchor.fm, which lets you do replies to audio messages, or GoSynth, which again also does replies to audio messages. You had a different approach.
I did with that. So, in thinking about it, now this actually gets me into the space of how we think about work we do generally. So, as I see it, teaching is an art and a science. In the science space is your content. How much can you reach into the details of the content that you work with in order to find things that might be intriguing in some way, or to allow for potential misconceptions that can come up? This is the science of it. The art of it is more in the space of what is it that inspires the student, right? And there's a lot of interesting psychology that goes into what we do as teachers. Now, selective mutism is one of those things for which there are any number of explanations and challenges, and so I don't mean to minimize it with an explanation that, or with an approach that may just be fundamentally off. But I think what you want to know is, what is it exactly that prompts the student to decide not to speak? So selective is the key word. We know that the child can speak at some times, and on camera, child does not speak. Okay, we know, got it. So one approach is just say, okay, when you are connecting with the class, don't be on camera. Now you're like, oh, look, I tried that, and probably so. And maybe it's just like, if the camera's on, there's a sense of being part of a group, then the child doesn't want to speak. And so that becomes a question of, okay, is it the group thing? Is it the visual of being on camera? What might it be? So testing that, you can say, all right, well, what if you take a few minutes to connect with that child and parent or helper at some point, and what you do is you just try some different things, and you try it as minimally as possible. You start by both being off camera, where you say, okay, can you hear my voice? I'm excited to be able to share some ideas with you, and just see what happens, right? Because you really want to zero in on what is the issue that we're facing there with regard to the technology, and what is it that might be useful for how we approach this. In the chat, some cool ideas are coming up as well, right? So Aviva was like, well, what about using Goose Chase? If you're going to do a scavenger hunt, Goose Chase is a pretty interesting tool. As I recall, it gets pretty expensive pretty fast. But Richard, do you have any kind of thoughts on using Goose Chase?
Yeah, same as your thought. It gets expensive pretty quickly.
It's cool.
It's cool. I'll put the link in there. Try to find it for you real quick.
Yeah. And that to me is one of those things about any tool. A lot of the things we talk about, Richard and I are kind of in the same space. What can you do with the free offering of the tool? And that is not designed to say we only work with free things, we refuse to pay. That would not be a sustainable economic kind of situation right there. However, when a company does a really good job of giving you a free tool that you can try out, it's not kind of half strength and you don't even know if you're able to do it well. Maybe it's a 10-day trial or something like that, where they are saying our tool is so good that once you try it, you will want to go and argue for spending resources on it, which I think is fine, right? There are things worth paying for sure. The question is, do you know? Because too many vendor salespeople don't know how to talk to teachers about these things. They're like, hey, how fast can we get you to yes, right? We got a solution for you. And it's like, yeah, the solution is to the problem. And the problem is you haven't sold me yet, right? And so what we want to be in a space of, Give me the chance to try this meaningfully, and we'll consider it. And you never know. Contact Goose Chase and say, hey, would it be okay for me to get a 30-day trial on this? Or heavens, most of these companies are giving things away for free through the end of May or June or something like this. And just given the worldwide situation, you might be able to try it that way.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. We'll leave it at that. No, we won't. One other idea. Our friend Adam Bello over at BreakoutEDU would be disappointed if I didn't mention BreakoutEDU as a possible digital scavenger hunt option as well. So
very cool stuff at BreakoutEDU. We'll get that link in the chat. Richard, let's go to the next question.
Next question. This one's pretty straightforward, so I'll just knock it out. My wife is a high school teacher. She's trying to upload PowerPoints into Google Classroom. The recorded video, audio, and animation seem to be stripped away when she uploads them. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Yep, probably. I would bet the deposit on my can of seltzer here that your Google Drive is set to automatically convert all uploads into Google Drive, Google Slides format, which is something that's pretty common in most G Suite for EDU domains these days. And so when you upload your PowerPoint, it's going to try to convert it into Google Slides format. And in doing so, it's stripping out any animations that weren't supported, and likewise isn't going to support any embedded video. So that's why that's happening.
So it has certainly been the case over time that with Google Drive, you bring in things that, PowerPoint's been around for about 7-8 centuries, right? And I mean, and there's loads you can do with it. That's a strength of PowerPoint, is that loads of people have created things, put it out there, that's cool. However, don't get hung up on things like animations and PowerPoint and videos in it. You really should look at that and say, is that necessary for the purpose of the PowerPoint? A given slides presentation may be completely informational, in which case, having lots of text in it may be fine. It may be part of a presentation you make, in which case having a lot of text is a foul, right? On the other hand, if you're saying, no, the animations are really important for how we go through this content, consider going through the content with the PowerPoint using a screencast tool and creating a video out of it. And that might be the better way to get that together.
Yeah. And many versions of PowerPoint now include a built-in screencasting tool.
That's right. So
you could do that. That's the way to go about it. And then just one last thought on that. If you're trying to publish these for your students, right, particularly if your kids don't have a Windows computer at home and you've uploaded a PowerPoint that hasn't been converted, you're leaving them out of the picture because they don't have a way to then open it. Particularly if you're talking about on your phone. I've got some students right now whose only real internet access right now is on their phones, and anything that's not optimized for being viewed in a web browser just doesn't include everybody. So,
which also argues for the video. If you get it to YouTube,
right.
I mean, phones can play YouTube videos, right? So a lot of options there. Let's keep going, though. I want to see if we can get through all of these.
All right. JC asked a couple of questions. I want to ask for your recommendations for tools or apps that can be used together with Zoom or Google Meet in a one-on-one tutoring session or for a group session. I think we covered that kind of with Jamboard and Whiteboard Fi. But do you have anything else you want to add?
No, like for me, the go-to with that is any collaborative tool. So a lot of the Google Drive stuff, Google Classroom stuff is going to be good. If you're working with Microsoft Teams, you can probably get in exactly the same space. Teams, is a cool and interesting tool with plenty to speak for it as well. So I would say that, and remember that you're constantly moving between synchronous and asynchronous, right? So as you work one-on-one with the tutoring in a tutoring environment, you're really working to find out what is this student's question, because the chances that that's the only student with that question, fairly limited, right? So if you're kind of keeping track of those things and you finish your tutoring sessions by creating quick screencasts using Screencastify or something like that, you may end up with a bank of things that allow students across your class to be able to be like, oh, okay, got that now. That was a really good question that such and such asked, right?
And JC's other question was, I'd like to ask you for recommendations and I'm butchering the question, sorry. I would like to ask for your recommended and probably even proven to be effective assessment tools.
So I'm going to assume that we're talking about assessment tools with online learning. And in looking at that, I'm going to make a blanket statement on this that may not be completely satisfying to everybody, but I think the depth in terms of the pedagogy with this is important. If you are doing multiple choice, fill in the blank, those kinds of assessments, there is endless opportunities to cheat. There are, and if you know that your students will follow a code of conduct such that they won't, then you can do those things. But you still have to ask, is that really testing learning in a meaningful way? And so imagine instead that you're going to spend some time individually with students, really asking them to describe connections. That takes a long time. Yes, it does. But on the other hand, if you're connected to somebody via video chat and you're really talking your way through this with them, you'll know whether they know it. Get kids to connect with each other in groups ahead of that, especially if we're talking about, say, middle and high school students, and they can get together and talk through those pieces together. If you can really train them to help each other do that, so that they're not putting each other down or anything like that as they talk about it, they're getting into a space where they're helping each other come up with ideas that they would be able to say back to you in a one-on-one video chat. Now you're assessing what they really truly know, which is actually a lot better than a lot of paper and pencil assessments that are out there. May not be as efficient, may not be as easy, but it's better. Richard.
So I just put in the chat a link to an article I read last fall. It was last fall, or it was published 10 years ago, but I just discovered it last fall or last summer when I was doing some research on formative assessments. And in that, it's a 10-page paper. You can knock it out this afternoon. In that, they suggested a method that I ended up using this fall and winter with my students called the 3-color quiz. Now, to call it a quiz is a bit of a misnomer. It's more of a 3-color process. And the idea is that, I'm probably going to butcher my explanation right now, but the idea is that in phase 1, students use 1 color of sticky note, or you can do this in a Google Doc, 1 color of text, 1 color of background, where they're writing their response to a prompt or writing what they know about a topic in isolation. Then the second color, the second phase, is when they talk to a classmate or a couple of classmates and they collaboratively write a response. And then finally, they will put in the third color, the third phase of it, they'll consult their notes, they'll consult online resources and each other to come up with a final submission, if you will. And I ended up using it with my computer science students, actually, because it was great for problem solving, right? Because a lot of my students are like, they don't get the answer right away, so they go to Google, or they don't get the answer right away and they, Mr. Byrne, I can't figure out this problem, right? So it really was good to encourage them to think critically before just jumping into a Google search or just jumping into their notebooks or relying on me. So check that out.
Cool. Richard, make sure you are going to all panelists and attendees in the chat. We'll get that set up. I'm going to go to the next question.
Somehow I just to you. I don't know why I did that.
Got it handled. All good. All right. So next one is from Larry. I hope this note finds you well. I've been looking for some technology activities to give my 5th graders ways to share their books. We are currently making book trailers using Adobe Spark, very cool tool, but I am struggling to find other activities. Do you have some suggestions? I would really recommend Book Creator. All right, Book Creator for Chrome is a wonderful, wonderful tool that allows you to bring in a lot of different kind of media. So they can do kind of quick pictures of the book that they're doing. They can write text next to it. They can record their voice describing things that were interesting to them about that, or even reading a passage. There's a lot of different things you can do in this one tool. So I'll get the Book Creator app link in the piece as well.
And I would just add in my thought on this was, rather than doing like the book trailer thing where kids have to try to sell the book or they do the book report, have them do a little fan fiction or a little alternate ending scenario. Take the last chapter of the book and rewrite how that book might end, or how would you start a sequel to this book? Do something like that to mix it up a little bit.
That's a cool idea for sure. All right, let's see. We're going to go a extra couple of minutes, I think, today, because we've still got 2 questions and we want to get to them both. And this one is from Deirdre Jameson in Minnesota, a stalwart friend of Next Vista webinars. Thank you very much for all your attendance on this. I have a Google Slides issue I was wondering if you and Richard might be able to help me with. My school does a morning announcement slideshow, which is presented through a Chromebook onto a TV. In the fall, the slide presentation played on a continuous loop with no issues. Sometime midwinter, it stopped doing that. I tried the publish to web option with start as soon as the player loaded and restart both checked, and slideshow plays for a while, then stops. Any suggestions how to fix this, or suggestions for another way to share our morning announcements? Richard.
All right, so this is one of those weird things where I tried to duplicate the error myself and couldn't, which leads me to believe that there is something happening in your browser cache or in your cookies that is stopping this from restarting and replaying. Because I tried to duplicate this and I couldn't do that. That said, a potential workaround, if you really can't, if you try all the usual, clear your browser cache, clear all that, and try it again. If that doesn't work, while it might be a little bit annoying, you could do a screencast video of it and then put the video into one slide, and in those video settings for the slide, have that video just keep repeating.
Or upload the video to YouTube and have it repeat from there. Actually, can you repeat from YouTube? Actually, there are tools that allow you to do that. I mean, if you Google repeat YouTube video, you'll find it for sure. Yeah. And we got one more, and this is from Kathleen. I think Richard came through. You want to speak to that one?
Yeah, just got it before we came on here. NBC Sports published this amazing film called Cold War on Ice Summit Series 1972. I'm not a sports person, and I absolutely loved it. Made the Cold War more real. Question was, she found a bootlegged copy on YouTube. Do you know how to locate a video that used to be on YouTube and was created by a major company? So she's looking for things that are not bootlegged on YouTube. People upload a DVD recording it or something. My suggestion for anything that's of that vintage, meaning more than 35 years old or so, look at archive.org. Archive.org has millions of audio and video files that are available to view and in many cases download for free. Many of them are in the public domain. My caveat about archive.org that I always give: do not send your students there unaccompanied or unmonitored, because they can find anything. Because
everything is there.
Everything is there.
Everything is there.
But you could look there. Other than that, there's tons of shady BitTorrent sites on the web that you could look at. Personally, I wouldn't look at them, but there are some of those places around too.
Yeah, and consider how you're looking to share it, right? And so let's say you've got this this piece that's on YouTube that is bootlegged, right? You may still be under fair use provisions of copyright law in sharing it with your students if you are not redistributing the content yourself, right? That's shaky ground, and I think you'd probably want to talk to your district people about that before leaping both feet into it. But it may be that you can be kind of okay on that front, as long as you're doing it for educational purposes. I mean, there's a lot of latitude for teachers if you have a clear educational purpose for using something like that. All right, well, we have covered a load of ground this week. All right, good fun to be doing that. The goal, of course, is to be able to say, not like there are 50 things you have to explore. That's not it. You look for one or two that really, really work for you and that inspire you to think, I can reach a kid with this, right? That's the goal. Because as I mentioned every week, our job is to care for these kids, to care for their learning, And to do that best, we care for ourselves. Make sure you are finding those things that inspire you, whether it's videos from Great Big Story or cool tools that you find on practicaledtech.com, whatever it may be. Find those things that inspire you and take good care of yourself. Stay healthy, get enough sleep, right? Eat right. All those kinds of things are very, very important. You can get loads of good things from the stuff that Richard puts out with his weekly newsletters. I put out a monthly newsletter from nextvista.org that I hope you'll take a look at. You can find my writing at the blog Inspiring Improvement, rushtonh.com, rushtonh.com, plenty there. I publish on occasion, right? And then there are books that I've put out to help you become a better teacher, to help your school become a better place personally and professionally for everybody, as well as one for leaders that came out from NCEA in December called Technology, Teamwork, and Excellence. For any of these books, if you and your colleagues decide to do book study with them and you want to connect via video chat and talk about it just as a team, I'd be happy to do so. How much you charge? I do that for free. You're so nice. Happy to help. All right. So, Richard, a little bit of your stuff.
All right. So I love to have people visit me in Maine, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen this year. So I'm having the Practical EdTech virtual summer camp. The July sessions are filling up pretty quickly, actually, already. So check that out. And if you want some free stuff from me, I got lots of it. Go to practicaledtech.com and sign up for my weekly newsletter, which includes, when you sign up, the Practical EdTech Handbook, which is also free to download. Or go to my YouTube channel, or find me on Twitter, email me, Facebook me, Instagram me. Only follow my Instagram if you like pictures of cute kids, dogs, and a 41-year-old guy trying to be in shape.
Well, this 52-year-old guy is very happy for anybody to be like jumping on that space and just sharing your ideas with us. We love sharing cool stuff, and so feel free to send us questions. You do that through contact us at nextvista.org. You can contact Richard in any of the ways he described, and please come back and join us for any of the webinar content that we've got. And we hope we'll see you tomorrow at the one for parents of elementary kiddos. We're gonna de-stress some folks then. So thank you so much for joining in with what we had to share this week, and I hope we will see you again next week.